advisor to VCs as well. I was going to say, we need a couple more mics up here. Test them out, make sure they all work. Ready. So we're going to keep on a little break here. Yeah, absolutely. You can catch his breath. We'll start with Kim. So being from State Street, why do you think bigger institutions are slower to adopt things like crypto that are digital?
I mean, you were talking about this a little bit earlier. We're coming along for the ride, but we're not as quick as some of the fintechs. The TradFi world is very highly regulated. We don't jump into things without being as sure as we can around all the risks, and we need to bring our regulators along for the journey. And I think so much of my experience in this world is, in this DeFi world, is learning and understanding, and then transferring that knowledge both to internal stakeholders as well as to our regulators. So it's a journey, and we are definitely on that path, but we're not as quick as some of the others.
Sure. So you mentioned your regulators. What risk considerations are you grappling with at State Street?
You know, there are three things that keep me up at night. Hacks. Let's call it for what it is. State Street is one of the world's largest custody banks. We've been managing and keeping client assets safe and secure for 200 years. We've never lost $1 of client money. Now, in this world, in this new DeFi world, that's quite a statement to hold to a standard that one needs to hold oneself up to. So, you know, we would not go and offer digital asset custody without being sure, as we possibly can, that our 200-year-old reputation, which is so fundamental on running new business, is not harmed by jumping into this new asset class. So cyber hacks keep me up, AML, KYC keep us up all the time. Again, we're highly regulated. We have to prove over and over again to our clients, to our shareholders, and particularly our regulators, that we know our clients, that we're comfortable doing business with. And then regulators, you know, every jurisdiction is different. I was at another event where somebody was talking about, I wish there was a global government and we're dealing with one set of rules. Clearly not. We're a global organization. We operate in many different parts of the globe. I don't need to tell anybody here the different speeds at which different regulators are moving. And that introduces a huge amount of complexity into how we build our business going forward and how we bring our regulators along with us.
Yeah, all things to consider, especially the reputation. David, we'll pass it off to you. So with some people thinking we're entering a bear market, what do you think people should be paying attention to?
Well, I would say, to start off, ask yourselves, are you an investor or are you a speculator? Because if you're an investor, you don't care that it's a bear market. You see that as a buying opportunity, and you are looking for projects that are solid and are solving problems. This is what blockchain originally was. Now, obviously, we have run across a number of things like meme coins and all sorts of crazy degenerate stuff. And that's, okay. Sometimes it has its place, especially if you're a speculator and you're in a bull market. But I remember saying at a conference that I spoke at back in the latter part of 2021 when everyone was going mad with NFTs, saying these are froth, you're going to get caught in this, and sure enough they did. Now obviously I even mentioned at that time that there are perfectly good use cases for the technology, but what is being sold is not even art in most cases, although it's being called that. So fast forward to now, we see a similar pattern. Anytime things have been very heated, people become interested in stuff that really does not have any intrinsic value and is not solving a major problem. So now that, assuming that we are indeed entering a bear market, as some people say, I would say look at solid projects, Find people who are building things and invest in those. Don't be the speculator right now. Be the investor. At least that's what I am doing myself.
Good advice there. So I think, Kayvon, you had enough of a break. You ready for a question now? All right. What is your take on altcoins and meme coins? I mean, you mentioned it very briefly, but go in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, we actually have a really kind of expansive view of the coin space. Let me make an analogy. Right? The stock market is way bigger than gold. Right? Gold is 21 trillion. It's under 20 trillion. Like, there's a massive utility and usage in the stocks that exist. So think of that in our industry. And as great as Bitcoin is not where all of the innovation and the experimentation and the use cases and frankly the businesses that our industry is going to experiment in over the course of the next several years. And so if you look at Bitcoin sitting today where it is at a few $1 trillion, altcoins are actually in the aggregate, in the same kind of universe. And what we believe is that the greatest driver of utility, the greatest driver of use cases are actually coming in the altcoin space. That's where people are getting onboarded. It's the games that they play. It's the communities that they're part of. It's the art that they're buying to go back to the universe. And so any individual one project will look like any individual stock in the stock market. But in the aggregate, we believe that the altcoin space is going to be the analogy to gold as it would be for the stock market, if that makes sense. The other thing I would say too is, we've taken, it's why we've invested in so many, we've taken a pretty broad base approach. Right? So we started in the games industry, but out of the 628 investments we've made over the last few years, games are actually only about 170 of those. Right? So that means that we've gone into every aspect of utility, from all of the kind of deep refi, all of the ways in which AI has intersected our industry, all of the ways in which, frankly, the innovations in our industry are appearing. It's why we went into Colossal, it's why we went into OpenSea, it's why we went into kind of these big names that you see on our kind of holdings list. And the reason for that is we have a very bullish and frankly very interesting, expansive view because of where we sit in the industry. And so we're a bit positioned almost like an index in the space today. So if you look at our business is partly, let's go invest in the greatest companies that we think are going to be the Amazons of the next wave, right? And then there's the idea of how we service them, how we service our own projects. Then we look at the industry, and when we build projects into spaces we think we could have some kind of differentiated value in, and that flywheel effect becomes the operating model. But for us, it does come back to this idea that utility is driven in the altcoin space, not necessarily in the holding of one specific asset.
Well said. Very well said. All right, back to Kim. Give us a little more in-depth view of what State Street is building as far as the crypto digital space. What's the strategy, what's your infrastructure looking like?
Not altcoins, not NFTs, not meme coins. So, yeah. I mean, we're looking at this very much through an institutional lens. So we have two parts of our business. I'm sitting on the investment management side of our business. We're the fourth largest investment manager in the world. Our clients are the big sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, endowments, charities. And we're really thinking about the efficiencies and the new utility that DLT can bring as a product wrapper. So State Street Investment Management has a long history of innovation. We invented the ETF wrapper back in 1993 with SPY and Tracker on the S&P 500. And we're thinking about a tokenized wrapper as a new wave or a new wave of innovation that can bring new utility to both existing products and existing investment solutions and new ones. And we think a lot about the wealth transfer, the intergenerational wealth transfer that's going to happen over the next couple of decades. We're very well aware around the fact that anyone who has teenage kids will know their children only interact on their phone, will never open a brokerage account, they will only have a digital wallet. As one of the world's largest product manufacturers or investors, we need to have products that slot into a digital wallet. So we're thinking around blockchain and DLT in terms of the wrapper utility it can bring to us. We're obviously also very engaged in discussions on how we give investors access to cryptocurrencies as an asset class, give investors access to all sorts of asset classes. This is just another one. So that's very much how we think about this world on the investment management side of the house. And then State Street as a custody bank has recently announced the launch of our digital asset platform. We really want to be able to service client needs, whether they're investing in a US Treasury bill or they want a custodian for crypto. And they want a regulated custodian, they want to know it's safe. And they're looking to us, as I said, for our 200-year history of never losing client assets. So we're building on that side of the house a platform that has to integrate with our traditional systems, that is very much compliance first, that is very much focused on KYC and in order to serve our client needs there.
So kind of a follow-up question to that. What is your current client demand for this whole asset class?
It's a really good question. So on the investment management side of the house, where my clients are the sovereign wealth funds, the pension funds, endowments, you're very interested in crypto as an investment opportunity. Still tentatively so. It's growing for sure, but we're slower coming into that space. And then for State Street Bank as a custody provider, I'm on the investment management side of the house, I'm one of their clients, and I'm clamoring for, can you help me develop tokenized products? Can you custody my Bitcoin ETF? So I wear two hats here. So as a buy-side client, there is huge demand for us to be producing investment solutions that touch this space, and for my service providers to be able to service them. And then for my investors, it's a growing interest in cryptocurrencies, and it's an enormously growing interest in tokenized assets.
Very good insight. David, back to you. What are some promising investments that you've seen recently? As you had mentioned previously, you have to be on the lookout for these. What are some you haven't invested in or some you know about?
Well, I'll name a couple actually that that are in my own portfolio. One is called a company called Solon Global, and they are doing what I said, something that is a use case that's solving a problem. They are doing electronic health records in the cloud with blockchain. And right now, their founder is in Davos and Zurich to ink a deal with a major blockchain that I cannot name right now, but they're here to ink that deal for over $100 million deal. Wish them luck on that, because they're very close on that. And if they do it, there will be an announcement on it. However, unfortunately, could not be here tonight for that. But as I said, it is solving a problem, because what do you have in that system? You have lag time with insurances and doctors. You have things where there's a lot of fraud. So if you can do that on chain, and the Blockchain Foundation is helping partner with them on that. If you can do that on chain, you eliminate a lot of fraud and waste. You can have same-day payments for hospitals and doctors. It creates a level and layer of efficiency that we have not seen. So that is an example of the kind of thing I'm talking about, and I'm proud to be an investor and advisor there at Solon Global and another. And the founder is here in the room, Alan there. Alan Smithson is a company I've invested in called Unlimited Awesome, and they are education for entrepreneurship education for the post-AI era. Because if you notice, a lot of the jobs we see today, they're not going to be around in the future. And what does that leave? That leaves entrepreneurs. That also leaves certain skills like empathy and certain human skills and self-awareness, and as well as the skills that are dealing with tech like AI and blockchain. So having those skills, where are people going to get educated? Things are speeding up, so we need a new model for some of that, and that is what is being worked on there at Unlimited Awesome, where students can learn from some really world-class mentors, and then when they graduate, they're given ownership and are builders in the DAO. So that's also another example of what I mean when I said earlier, philosophically, find something that's solving a problem, that is building something that is lasting, and because you can look at froth and speculation, or you can look at things that can potentially grow in the longer term.
Awesome. Practicing what you preach. I love it. I am getting the signal from our host Kumardev here that is time to wrap up a little bit here. Kumardev, what's next? All right. Yeah. So thank you to our panelists.
Thank you.
I'm sure they're available for questions if you want to pull them to the side.
There's so many mics. I don't know.
Yeah, they're all.